With generalizing space set.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Harialani Iraula, and I am your first reporter for this afternoon. Our topic for this afternoon is distinguishing and constructing the various paper and pencil tests. And we will tackle a planning test and construction of table specification. Allow me to explain about the parts and the important steps of the following. First is the important steps for a test. Identifying objectives, table of specification, prototypes, construction, test item, the types of paper and pencil test, construction selected response type, and the last one is the guidelines for constructing response test. Identifying task objectives. In identifying task objectives, first is remembering. In remembering, the student must be able to identify the subject and the verb in a given sentence. It recognizes and recalling the facts. Second is understanding. In understanding or understand, the student must be able to determine the appropriate form of a verb to be used given subject-verb agreement, or it is to understanding what the fact mean. Third is apply or application, or applying. The student must be able to write sentence observing rules on subject-verb agreement, applying the facts, rules, concepts, and item. The fourth is analyze or analyzing. In analyzing, the student must be able to break down a given sentence into its subject and predicate. In analyzing, so breaking down information, it is also breaking down information of the component parts. And evaluation. In evaluation or evaluate, the student must be able to evaluate whether or not the sentence observes rules on a subject-verb agreement. In evaluate, judging the value of information or ideas. So the last one is create or creating. In creating, it's combining parts to make a new whole. Next, the table of specification. In the table of specification, there are level and the objective, and the item of the number percentage. In the level of specific table of specification prototypes, always remember, when we hear recalling, the objective of recalling is to identify subject-verb. Understanding, the objective is form appropriate. Applying, the objective is write sentence or write sentences. Analyzing, the objective is determine subject and predicate. And evaluating, the objective here is to evaluate. Creating, the objective is to formulate rules. Constructing the test item. In constructing the test item, it is the actual construction of the test items follows the TOS, like what I said. It is the construction of the test items follows to the TOS. Or when we say item, analysis and tryout or mental exercise. Next, paper and pencil test. Types of paper and pencil test is the development of a paper-pencil test requires careful planning and expertise in the terms of actual test and construction. In paper and pencil test, it is a traditional pencil and paper test as students to read and listen to a selection and then answer questions about it, or to choose or produce grammatical form or vocabulary item. Such tests can be helpful as measure of students' knowledge of language, forms on their listening and reading comprehension ability. A paper and pencil test, always remember that first, it is a common and systematic way of gathering information about the learner's behavior and performance. It is also the professional skill. In constructing paper and pencil test, or constructing selected response is true or false test. So, if we construct the true or false test, a student who knows nothing of the content of examination would have 50% of chance or getting the correct answer by sheer guesswork. So, I know that true or false is an easy way of a kind of a test. Then, guidelines of constructing alternate response test. Rule number 1, do not give a hint in the body of question. So, rule number 1, if we construct the alternate response test, do not give a hint of a question. Rule number 2, avoid using the words always, never, offend, and other words in attempt to be either always true or always false. The rule number 3, avoid long sentence as they tend to be true, keep sentence short. Rule number 4, avoid trick statements with some minor misleading word or spelling anomaly, misplaced, etc. Rule number 5, avoid quoting verbatim from reference material or textbook. Rule number 6, avoid specific determiners or giveaway qualifiers. Rule number 7, with true or false questions, avoid a grossly disproportionate number of either true or false statements or even pattern in the occurrence and true or false statements. Rule number 8, avoid double negative. This makes test item unclear and definitely will confuse the students. So that's are the rules and the guidelines of constructing alternate response test. And that's my report for today. Thank you.
Good day everyone. So I'm here to discuss about the multiple choice of test. So what is the multiple choice of test? The multiple choice types of test offers the student with more than 2 options per item to choose from each. Each item in a multiple choice test consists of 2 parts, the STEM and the options. So when we say multiple choice of test, it is a form of assessment in which students are asked to select the correct or best answer out of the choices from the list. So there are 2 parts of multiple choice of test, where the STEM, it identifies the question or problem. So in the set of option, there is a correct or best option, while all others are considered distractors. The distractors are chosen in such a way that they are attractive to those who do not know the answers or guessing, but at the same time have no appeal to those who actually know the answer. There are guidelines for constructing multiple items. First is do not use unfamiliar words, terms, and phrases. So in order the students will not get confused about the questions given. Next is do not use modifiers that are vague and whose meanings can differ from one person to next, such as much, often, usually, and etc. For an example, much of the process of photosynthesis takes place in the A. bark, B. leaf, C. stem. So, the qualifier much is the vague and could have been replaced by more specific qualifiers or some similar phrases that will be more precise. Next is avoid complex or awkward word arrangement. Also avoid use of negatives in this term, as this may add unnecessary comprehension difficulties. So for an example, as I saw on the social media sites about the two news about Marcos, it has been stated that an awkward news and better news. So Senator Bong Marcos stated that he wanted to run for the Limas under the Partido Federal of the Philippines. So the words arrangement are very complex and awkward, but to avoid it and make it better words is that Senator Bong Marcos to run for president. Next is do not use double negatives. Such statements tend to be confusing. It is best to use simpler sentences rather than sentences that will require expertise and grammatical construction. So, we should not use double negative words used in the same sentence because double negative words are generally discouraged in English because they are considered to be poor grammar and they can be confusing. Each item should be as short possible, otherwise you risk testing more for reading and comprehension skills. So we must precise every question on each item because sometimes the students are lazy to read long questions. Next, the length, explicitness of or degree of technicality of alternatives should not be determinants of the correctness of all the answers. Example, if the angles of two triangles are congruent, then the triangles are A. Congruent whenever one of the sides of the triangle are congruent, B. Similar, C. Equiangular and therefore must also be congruent, or D. Equilateral if they are equiangular. So the correct choice is B because its length and explicit alone. The other choice are long and tend to explain, but it is not the correct answer. Some students choose the long answer because they think it is the correct answer, but it is not. So in order to get the right choice of answer, we should read and understand the question. Next is avoid alternatives that are synonymous with others or those that include or overlap others. So example, what causes ice to transform from solid to liquid state? A. Change in temperature. B. Changes in pressure. C. Change in the chemical composition. Or D. Change in heat level. So as you can see that the option A and D are essentially the same. So the student who choose these identical choices will be right, and the last will be the destructor that play no significant role in increasing the value of the item.
So the next topic is about the matching type. So what is matching type? So the matching type items may be considered modified multiple choice type items, where the choices progressively reduce as one successfully matches the items on the left with the items on the right. So, matching types questions measures the student's ability to connect words to complete sentences or pair words with their definition. So matching may be considered to be a variant of multiple choice, in which more than one choice is correct. The matching test formats consist of two columns. The column A, including the definition or phrase, and the column B with a word, number, or symbol, which is the option. So the next is the guidelines for constructing matching types. So, match homogeneous, not heterogeneous. So, example, if your students match needs to match authors with their literary works, in one column, which is the column A, will be the authors, and in the second column must be their works. So for example, homogeneous items, the items are all about Filipino heroes, nothing more. Match the column A to the column B. So the column A consists of Filipino heroes, and the column B consists of the answers, the option. So next, here are the perfect example for matching type. The direction of the test must be given clearly for the student to know exactly what to do. So, question number 1, just the column A. So you can see column A. As you can see, the column B have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, while the column A is 6. So, question number 1. The first president of the Republic. First president is Emilio Aguinaldo. So a national hero is Dr. Jose Rizal. So letter C. Discovered the Philippines. He is Ferdinand Magellan. Okay. The brain of Katipunan, Emilio Jacinto. That's right. So the great painter, Juan Luna. Juan Luna. Defended Linsawa Island is Raja Colombo. So letter D. So the mental exercise, another example. So column A consists of the shapes, while the column B consists of the options. We have the sides, 8-sided polygon, 10-sided polygon. So that's one. So for example, circle, number 10, agad-agad. Number 10, it is letter D, the closed plane figure, circle. So let's connect. That's one. So next, kayo na bahala sa iba mag-answer. Constructing supply type or constructed response type. Another useful device testing for lower order thinking skills is the supply type of test. Like a multiple choice, the item in this kind of test consists of a stem and a blank where a student would write the correct answers. So stems can be in the form of a questions or an incomplete sentence. So for example, the study of life and living organism is called, what? It's called biology. Yeah, that's right. So completion type of test. It is, however, possible to construct supply type of test that will test higher order thinking as the following shows. So write an appropriate synonym for each of the following. Each blank corresponds to a letter. So metamorphose. The synonym is change with a 6th letter. And the second is the flourish with the 4 blanks. So it means 4 letters. So it is grow. So have you noticed that these questions require not only recall of words but also understanding of these words. Next is this is another example of completion type of text that measures higher order thinking skills. So write G if the item on the left is greater than the item on the left. L if the item on the left is less than the item on the right. E if the item on the left equals the item on the right. And D if the relationship cannot be determined. So you have to read and understand carefully the instruction. No? Okay, simple mistakes will lead to a mistake. So column A, we have the square root of 9. In the column B, the negative 3. So the square root of 9 is 3. And while in the column B is negative 3. So positive 3 is always, positive numbers is always bigger than negative. So it is G, because the item on the left is greater than the item on the right. So next is the square root of 25, which is 5, and in the column B we have the 615. So 615 is bigger than 5. So letter L, it is because the item on the right is bigger than the left, or the item on the left is less than the item on the right. So number 3 is the 3 inches. So let's skip this one. Dun lang. Okay. So guidelines for the formulation of completion type of tests. So this is the guidelines. Avoid over mutilated sentences like this test item. Give enough clue to the student. So the blank, example, the blank produced by the blank is blank. The blank produced by the blank is used by the green blank. Change the blank and blank into blank. This process is called blank. So the answers are hard to predict. So we have to avoid this one. Avoid this type of questions. Avoid this. This kind of tests, there are many possible answers. So avoid this one. Avoid open-ended items. There should be only one acceptable answer. So example, Ernest Hemingway wrote a blank. So we know that Ernest Hemingway is a novelist. So we have to give another clue to know what is the right answer for this one. Another clue. So the blank should be at the end or near the end of the sentence. The question must be asked before the answer is expected. Blank and like that. So ask questions on more significant item, not on trivial matter. So there are other significant items rather than to ask a specific birth dates. So masyadong madali. Then the last is the length of the blanks must not suggest the answers. So better to make the blanks uniform in size. So part of speech that names persons, places, or things is what? The noun. Okay, that's all for my part. Thank you.
My topic is all about essay. Essay, classified as an objective test, allow for the assessment of higher order thinking skills. Such tests required students to organize their thought on the subject matter and coherent systems in order to inform an audience. In essay tests, students are required to write one or more paragraphs on a specific topic. When we say essay, students required to write one or more paragraphs on a specific topic. Essay questions can be used to measure alignment of the variety of objectives. First is comparing. Describe the similarities and difference between and compare the following method. Second is relating cause and effect. What are the major cause and effect about the essay? Third is justifying. Explain why you agree or disagree with the following statement. And fourth, summarizing is briefly summarize the content of the essay. Fifth, generalizing state a set of principles that can explain the following events. Sixth is inferring in the light of the facts presented what is most likely to happen when. And the seventh, classifying what do the following items have in common. And the eighth is applying. Describe a situation that illustrates the principle of essay. And the ninth is analyzing. Describe the reasoning errors in the following paragraph. And the 10th is evaluating. Describe the strength and weaknesses of the following and using criteria developed in class. And 11th is creating. Make up a story describing what will happen. Types of essay. Restricted essay is also referred to a short focus response, and non-restricted or extended essay. Extended response can be much longer and complex than short response, but students are encouraged to remain focused and organized. Guidelines for the formulation and scoring of essay test. Rule number 1. Phrase the direction in such a way that students are guided on the key concept to be included. Specify how the student should respond. Rule number 2. Inform the student on the criteria to be used for grading their essays. And rule number 3 is put a time limit of the essay test. And rule number 4 is decide of their essay grading system here on getting the essay of your student. And rule number 5 is evaluate of the student's answer to one questions before proceeding of the next questions. Rule number 6 is evaluate answer to essay questions without knowing the identify to the writer. And rule number 7 is whenever possible, have 2 or more persons grade such each answer. Rule number 8 is do not provide optional questions. And rule number 9 is provide information about the value, wealth of the questions and how it will be scored. And rule number 10 is emphasize higher level thinking skills. Thank you.